outrageous.
And right, it's causing toxicity in the body. It's giving rise to many health problems. Now I'm going to say...
Now, wait, I just want to go back, if you don't mind. Let's go back here. What you're saying is that somebody in an office in an 8-hour-a-day job in front of a computer screen with fluorescent lights above them has a 400 times greater chance of acquiring cancer than a lifeguard who is out at the beach all day long.
That's it.
Now,
you got it.
Okay, now where did that statistic or where did that piece of information come from?
The first thing people should do is start looking into John Ott, OTT. John Ott did the pioneering work on the impact of artificial fluorescent lights on test animals, tumor creation, etc. And that would give the readers Health and Light by John Ott, Light Radiation in You by John Ott.
I read them cover to cover.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah.
Those are good ones to...
Scary stuff.
to back up some of this stuff. Now, I'm going to say to you that we really want to replace all this with full spectrum. But the only way to make full spectrum is to use a fluorescent tube. Whoa, so we're using this bad light to make good light. How can we do that? Okay, first of all, fluorescent tubes put phosphors in it. That's how they make the frequencies. They put in cheap phosphors that make the yellow, orange, and red, and they produce these bulbs by the billions. Well,
where do they produce all this yellow light out of?
Every manufacturer in the world. End of game. Now, even these bad manufacturers will make a good fluorescent tube when full-spectrum companies say, we want this kind of tube. And what they do is they put more phosphors in it that give off different wavelengths that come closer to sunlight. And so we can change the color in a fluorescent tube very easily by adding phosphors, but that costs money, so they're always more expensive. Number two, the radiation and the flicker come off of the ballast, which is the fixture that the tube is in. And that's because it flickers 60 times a second, and it produces a very bad 60-wave frequency. But if I change that magnetic power supply to an electronic one, the pulsing rate or the flicker rate goes up to 25,000.
What does that mean to us?
It means that it looks like an incandescent bulb. There's no flicker, there's no radiation, it's nice. And so we can take a fluorescent light, change its color, and put this kind of electronic ballast in it, and it becomes a very safe fluorescent light. And now we can start making these compact fluorescent screw-ins that look like snow cones and the tubes above your head. And we can make lamps, and in today's world, you can replace almost every light in your house except the fixtures that hold halogens. We can't do that. But any incandescent, any fluorescent tube can be converted to full spectrum. Now, I really get with the type of companies that produce an incandescent bulb where it's yellow, but they coat the inside of the incandescent with a material called neodymium. It absorbs the yellow, and they market it as full spectrum light. And people buy it and say that, oh, well, this says full spectrum, but that's not going to help their health. That's not going to increase their immune system. That's not going to
So what's the criteria?
That.
What is the criteria?
There is none in this country. You can call full spectrum anything. There are no rules.
But what is the criteria for us, the consumers?
For us to do it is a full spectrum always has to be fluorescent technology. So whether it's a little snow cone screw-in bulb or it's a fluorescent tube, if it's fluorescent, and then they can lay claim to the full spectrum, provided it has a couple of criteria, like it says, I have a color rendering index, or CRI, of above 90, or I have a heat level of 5,000 degree Kelvin. So there's two ways that you can ask your your vendor or the place you buy the light, is this true full spectrum? Is it above 90 CRI, and is it 5,000 degree Kelvin?
So right now, I just want to deviate for one moment.
Yep.
Where are most of the light bulbs produced from that are in this country operating? China.
It used to be down in Mexico, but now they're coming out of China. I think China...
You think China has the U.S. market on bulbs?
Hell, they can turn our lights out on us, man.
Really? Is that right?
I think so. You know, all the bulbs in the world are just made in a few companies, and even those you have to go to and say, please make me full spectrum lights. I'll pay extra for them, but put in good phosphors and put in electronic ballast, and so they do it whenever they're down.
But there's all this, many times the existing infrastructure and the economy with an existing infrastructure is a serious, bane, an issue for an industry that may want to do better, may know the new knowledge, may know what you know, but can't consider financially changing anything. So what would you, I'm sure you've thought about this, what would you recommend to companies that produce bulbs that have an interest in establishing environments that better the body, that enhance health and wellness? I would imagine companies across the world would be very interested in their workers' productivity, very interested in workers being healthy and well, and would be willing to consider something like this, and a demand could be created or established.
Yeah. And
what would you recommend?
Well, education. We've been trying in schools to use full spectrum lighting when it's been shown to boost students' grade point averages, reduce hyperactivity, increase their teeth strength. It reduces cavities, for goodness sakes. And it does all this in a school environment, but the schools can't afford to buy light that's more expensive, so they go with the cheaper fluorescents, and then we get what we see in the schools today. So it's always the consumer demand that's going to drive this. And
so a light bulb is not a light bulb is not a light bulb,
right.
Really.
Yeah. Now,
all light is not the same.
Right. And John Ott had a great comment he made. He says, change light bulbs and you can change people's lives.
What about the astronauts that have been worked with by NASA using different types of light therapy and light tools? Can we talk about that right now?
Yeah, we can. And so let me lead into that by saying, by going back to our little visualization of this chart of sunlight that goes from ultraviolet through the colors and infrared again, the rainbow signature of sunlight, so to speak. And when we talk about full spectrum, we're really replicating that whole range of 1,500 frequencies, at least as much as we can technically do. But it's also been shown since the 60s that the isolation of one wave out of that spectrum, just one wave, and exclude all the other waves, has a very interesting effect on cellular tissue in the body. And it takes advantage of this concept that inside of your cells there are every cell in your body has a mechanism for repairing itself. It has mitochondria in there, and inside the mitochondria there are little photoreceptor molecules.
Mitochondria is considered the action center of the cells,
exactly.
Not the big energy generator.
This is how it's going to repair itself. This is how it's going to reproduce itself. Now, I'm going to give you an analogy here real quick. When you use your TV remote control to turn on your television set, you're sending an infrared single wave into a little photoreceptor molecule in that circuit, and as soon as it senses the light, it turns on the electronics of your TV. Now, once it's on, you keep using it, nothing's going to happen because it's already on. Okay, now, if you can take single wavelength light and apply it to a damaged cell, these photoreceptors inside the mitochondria respond in the same way that the receptor in your TV does. only instead of turning on an electronic circuit, it turns on a bioelectronic